Making it up on the fly like we always do. You are listening to the BlahCade podcast. I'm your host, Chris Freebus, aka Shut Your Trap. Joining me, as always, just on a different day, Jared Morgan.
Yes, I'm here, and I've come from a little mini staycation in the city.
A staycation in the city.
A staycation in the city, because those of you who know me know that I live a little way out of the main CBD precinct of Brisbane. So taking the kids in and giving them sort of like a bit of a city experience is actually quite a novelty for them. So there was a science fair on in the city that we took them to and stayed a couple of nights there and had a bit of a laugh. And they, well, had a bit of a laugh as much as you can with two kids that for some reason love to play up the whole weekend. So it was a bit annoying.
Silence!
That's right. Yeah, so that was a bit frustrating, but we got to see a bit of the science fair.
I don't know why it's been lately, and just like it's popped up in various different forms of media or whatever. But whenever somebody says science, then obviously there's all of a sudden the call out of science, and my son is and my son has heard this multiple times, and finally he goes, "Why does everybody do that?" And I'm like, "Let me give you a little education." So in goes the Thomas Dolby, up comes She Blinded Me with Science, and voila, wada bing, there you go, instant history lesson.
He's now educated.
He's now educated. Yeah, I don't think he was happy about the education, but he's educated all the same.
He now knows. You can now have those in conversations with him every time science is mentioned, which means you're going to have to mention science a lot more so you can milk that meat. You do realize that.
we also well, he discovered actually I think I discovered him. It was like, here, I'm gonna throw this on and see if you laugh. On Netflix they have the Aquabat Super Show. So the Aquabats is a ska punk band from here in Orange County, Huntington Beach.
That's awesome. I do like a bit of ska punk.
They came onto the scene about 98, I think. Somewhere around that vicinity, because there was all of a sudden this huge all of a sudden ska became popular in Southern California again. So they got radio play, and there was all sorts of bands that popped up and everything and benefited. So anyway,
like Real Big Fish, for example.
Exactly. Yeah. Also from
Orange County.
No doubt from Orange County. And not only that, they played the noontime show at my college when I was there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, when they were like, only had been around for 2 years, 3 years, and only had an EP. So anyway, I threw it up there on Netflix, and we watched the first episode, and it's all sorts of stupid, but it's great stupid. It's like mocking a Power Ranger Saturday morning style Sid and Marty Krofft show while being exactly that.
They're parodying themselves but imitating life,
right? And doing a little research, I found out that the lead singer for the Aquabats, he's also the guy that created Yo Gabba Gabba.
Oh, seriously, that makes a lot of sense, because I kind of wondered why I like that show that much as a father watching it with kids. I'm going, whenever I see Yo Gabba Gabba come on ABC Kids over here, I secretly go, yes. It's annoying as hell, but for some reason I really enjoy watching it.
But when you got Mark Mothersbaugh, who is one of the members of Devo, giving art lessons, you kind of go, there's some credibility here that I'm not quite sure of, and now I completely understand.
So hang on, the guy from Devo was doing art for Yo Gabba Gabba.
Yes, he did the art.
Things are starting to drop into place now.
Right, there's a little segment where he's like, "I'm going to teach you how to draw, kids." That's Mark Mothersbaugh.
Oh, right. From Devo.
From Devo. Yes.
Right, that dude. Now I understand.
Who, by the way, also is the one responsible for the Rugrats music. Because he composes for various things. I think he did Pee-wee's Playhouse also. I know he's involved in that whole scene. Anyway. it's one of those things.
Cool.
It's one of those things. So anyway, I showed him the Aquabats, and he wound up binging all the 12 episodes or whatever that were on the air. And then I had him in my car, and I was like, "So, let me put this on the radio for you." And I'm throwing little Aquabats. He's like, "No." I'm like, "It's not so bad, is it?" And he goes, "No, actually, it's kind of catchy."
It's pretty cool. Scarpuck is pretty cool. Now that's the gateway drug to real big fish.
Well,
for the language.
I was gonna say we're gonna have to wait a few years because real big fish kind of they go a little blue.
Yeah, they do go a little bit blue. They're funny as though. So good. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was our respective weekends, I guess. Really.
Yeah, something of that nature.
But I imagine your weekend's probably been a lot sort of with your head down in the guts of a pinball machine.
Well. Yes, my head has been underneath the hood, so to speak, doing a lot of. I have no idea what I'm looking at.
It's like, oh look, it's a board. Oh look, it looks blackened. Oh,
so we last time on the podcast put out the plea for anybody that wants to help me, please get in contact with me. And hey, you know who got in contact with me, Jared?
Who got in contact with you, Chris?
It would be Rob from Farsight.
Our friend Rob. Oh, very nice.
Yeah. So he contacted me and was like, "Hey, there's a couple of test checkpoints that you want to put a voltage meter up to and see how it's doing." I was like, "Okay, sure." So borrow the neighbor's multimeter because I still haven't purchased one yet.
Got one, yeah.
Continue to flip on the multimeter and go, I don't know what any of these settings are, but I'm going to go to one until it beeps.
I want the beepy one. I want the continuity check.
Yes, I want the continuity one, the one that the beeps real good. And anyway, I held it up to the MPU board and tested voltage, and it's not getting enough power. Yeah. So, like the one contact point, I was supposed to be getting 5 volts and I was only getting 4. Another contact point I was supposed to be getting 10 and I was getting 7. And then the one that I was supposed to be getting 20 on, I was getting like, I don't even think I was getting 10 on that. It was like 9 or something like that. So that what that made me wonder though is, and this goes back to where the problem seemed to have emerged, was we were messing around with the fuses on the power modulator board.
Yep. Which you sent me photos of, which I'm looking at.
So I sent photos of, I took that out this weekend. And, you got to understand this stuff is also just covered in grime because it hasn't been cleaned probably since it was installed. So I, took a brush to it and brushed off all the dirt and stuff. And then that's when I noticed that there's it looks like some charring going on. Now, Jared, do you know, is charring normal? It looks toasty on a couple of spots.
This board, because you've given me 2 photos, one with just the light shining down on it, and then one with the light shining behind it. And the one with the light shining behind it shows that there's definite charring around the large diodes on the bottom left of the board, which is really quite common. Those diodes are actually quite high amperage, and they do tend to heat up like oven, basically.
Sure, my C5 through C8, I believe is what they're labeled as.
Yeah, that's what they look like to me too. And yeah, they will cook, those ones.
And then the fuse, the F5 fuse, which is on the far left side, and I think it runs a ribbon down to the J5 plug, power plug. That also looks like it's been charred.
Yeah, that's heated. It's not so much it's charred; it's just heated up really.
Okay.
Yeah, it carries a lot of load, that one. So that would be, as you can see, that one goes to J5, which is the input plug. The J6 plug is a transformer, which is why you have all those diodes hanging off it, because it's probably a power regulation. It's probably, those 4 diodes would most likely be a bridge rectifier setup. So they would be controlling voltage into the board. And then the input plug will be taking voltage probably from, I'm not sure where, but it would be also carrying quite a high load too, because that wasn't, the F5 fuse is what, a 2.5 amp or something like that?
The F5, no, it's a 20 amp.
See, that's why it's so black. That's a very high amperage fuse. So that's carrying a lot of power.
20 amp fuse, right? But it's only got, a ribbon in it per se, right? And then
Yeah,
there's
a very
but
thin
then I
filament.
got a slow burn fuse, and that
Yeah.
thing's thick inside. It's crazy. It's got cloth in there and all sorts. I don't know. It was like,
Oh yeah, it's all about that one's that's the F2, which goes for the high voltage area. So you want that one to be slow bow because high voltage. I really like how they've actually like sectioned off this board and the way they've described it using like ant lines and stuff. It's really good how they've described for the age and the era of the machine. It's actually quite understandable, even if you don't have a schematic, isn't it? Really.
right.
So what is on the board, there's also a big wire loom with jumpers from 4 points on the board.
Yes, that goes to I almost want to say it's a ground. I'm not sure because that goes, screws in separate from the board into the metal plate that all of this is sitting atop of within the pinball machine itself. It's got a plus and a minus. There's a little square box. And it's got a plus and a minus on it.
It's a little square box, is it?
Yes.
That's probably a bridge rectifier. So it's got 4 legs on it, and then it has almost like a metal case on the top.
It's just a maybe about a ½ inch tall by 1 inch, 1 inch square little box with 4 plugs coming off the top of it.
It could be a relay or it could be a bridge rectifier, one of the two.
It doesn't go to anywhere. Like I said, literally all it does is just screws into the metal plate on the bottom of the machine that this whole board sits upon too.
Yeah.
Just separate from the board.
It looks like they've tried to get a component that. So the problem with these older boards is that when you try and find components today, they've slightly redesigned the legs on all the components. So oftentimes you can't actually put them directly back into the board again because the leg alignment isn't quite right. So what this person's done here is they found a component that actually electrically is sound for the board, but doesn't meet the board layout. So they've just jumped it and put it off the board so they can still use a component, but can't actually have it located on the board itself.
I'll tell you what, I will, after this podcast, I will take a picture and tweet that out. I'm also going to tweet out right now what the pictures that Jared is looking at, so that if you go to our Twitter feed, BlahCade at BlahCade, you'll be able to see.
Have a look at it.
Yeah, have a look, because it's more fun to actually see things than to just hear us talk about them.
Yeah, if I get crafty, I may even put these embedded into the post that I put up on the blog. Because it's interesting to see. I find it interesting to see boards. I don't know how to read a circuit layout diagram, but I've seen this type of charring before on boards, and it's pretty typical. But the thing that's jumped it out, I'd like to get more information about that, because it might be a bridge rectifier or it might be a relay. So yeah, that'd be interesting to have a look at. Anyhow, good work for getting the board out. I hope you labeled all the plugs.
Oh no, they were easy. That goes right back. It's already back in. I took it out long enough to clean it up and then put it right back in. And yeah, I'm not going to mess around with that. I'm going to also, I got the number for the guy that Mike told me to get in contact with. And hopefully he'll be able to come out this week, later in the week, and have a look for himself, see what's going on with the boards.
The good thing is that the power module board is a direct replacement with the Rotten Dog. So you can buy a Rotten Dog board, which will give you the logic plus the power all on one board, and it'll be a drop-in replacement for all this. So if you do find that this board's actually pretty tight, which it is looking a little bit long in the tooth, there's been a lot of field repairs done to it, you may just want to invest the $80, whatever it is, and get a brand new board. And
well, what probably is going to eventually happen is bit by bit, I'll wind up replacing
everything,
all the boards. Yeah. Right now, I don't want to. Right now, I want to replace whatever needs to be replaced to get it running,
operational.
Right. Get it operational again, and then I can, because this is going to be. I'm not flipping this. It's going to be, it's here. So it's more of a thing of, as time goes by, throughout the years, I can go ahead and do board replacements that'll, ensure the life longer. But right now, my concern is finding out what the heck went wrong, getting the sound back up and running,
Yeah.
and not wasting you. Basically, I only got a limited amount of funds right now, to do any of this. And
Yeah.
if I exceed those funds, well, then I'm hosed until I have more funds. So
Yeah. I get what you're saying. Like, it's one of those
it's
things where you kind of, I've got the thing, I just want to get the thing ticking over enough that I can play it.
exactly. Because you go on Pinside and it's amazing. You got people that, oh, first thing I do without even checking anything, it's I replace all the connectors, and
yeah.
then I go and I replace all the capacitors. Well, hey, that's great, but you're still not diagnosing where any of the problems are.
Yeah.
That's you're just going for the quick fix, if you will. But what happens if you do all that and still nothing? Well, great, you eliminated a troubleshooting thing, but I tend to like to find what is the thing that is causing the trouble.
And then perhaps if you work out that, yes, it is capacitors, then go, cool, now I know that the capacitors are dry, I'm going to replace all of them in one hit. But I know that
Exactly.
it's the capacitors that is most likely causing the issue. You can do that. The other approach you can do too is if you switch a game on that hasn't been switched on for a while, and you try and power it up with stuff that's damaged on the boards, what can often happen is it will have a flow-on effect to other parts of the machine. So the people who say, look, yeah, I'm going to just like replace the plugs, get all the connections working, make sure the capacitors are fine, because I know that the age of this machine will mean that most of the capacitors are dry anyhow. So all they're doing is up front, they're just trying to make the machine as stable as possible, so that if there is any other issues in the game, that they know that it's definitely not that and it's definitely not this. So it's more just an insurance policy, because it's well documented that these machines of that age and that board set, these are the things that will always be a problem on them and will often be the cause of, I guess, edge cases in the machine when you try and diagnose things. So it's removing those problems first will often solve a lot of the problems that you're having in other areas of the boards. It's just one of those things.
It's interesting too. Actually, the other table that I have is firepower, and it's, for as much as I always associated Bally and Williams together, they're two completely different beasts when it comes to the Bally one has boards all over the place. The Williams one doesn't. The Williams doesn't have any boards on the bottom of the cabinet, whereas the Bally one does. And there's these little clear boxes. I'm not sure. Those might be the rectifier boxes or whatever. That are
clear boxes are probably relays.
There's a solenoid
driver board.
No, it's again a little box that's on the underside of the playfield. I don't know. There's all sorts of little parts and stuff that I'm like, that wasn't. None of this has been on the Williams table. And then just even like I said, this one does not have the bayonet style lights. It's I think there are 555s or 333s, something like that. Yeah. So it's just kind of interesting where what I had thought would be virtually the same is different. Even the flippers, these are what they call inline flippers, as opposed to what the firepower has, which is what I think most flipper assemblies kind of tend to look like for a while. I think
the inline flippers being like a rod with almost like a slider mecanism on it, rather than like a pull and crank mechanism. That was pretty common in a lot of bellies. I saw that style of solenoid actuator in things like Black Pyramid as well. A Black Pyramid, its slingshots are actually like on a slider. So you know how traditionally slingshots have got like almost like a crank with a lever attached to it that the solenoid pulls down, then the crank actuates. Well, this thing, the solenoid and the rubber actuator is all in one assembly, so it just slides backwards and forwards. And as it slides, the actuator pulls the rubber out and actually triggers the rubber. So it's very weird how they thought, what, we're going to go from this to something like you see on the modern pinball machines, which clearly is because it was probably cheaper to produce and easier to maintain. So it is interesting to see how its mechanisms have evolved over the years.
So we'll like I said, it's all a big education for me, and I'm That's what I want to see. What, the mechanical stuff. I'm not afraid of. I'm not afraid of unscrewing and disassembling and cleaning and then reattaching. But this electrical stuff is, I downloaded the manual and I looked in the back of the electrical schematic, and I'm like,
Nope.
it could be written in Farsi for all I care. There's no way I'm interpreting this.
This is the problem. Well, when I was listening to not the Coinbox Pinball podcast, the Nick Baldridge's podcast on EMs, he actually goes through a number of episodes where he will actually he says, download this thing and walk through with me how to diagnose this fault in a EM machine. And he actually walks through the schematic, explaining along the way what each thing was. Because like electrical schematics are the same, no matter what era of pinball you're looking at or what era of thing. They all just use the same nomenclature in them. So if you can understand one from the modern era, you can understand one from the EM era, and so on and so forth. So there might be some lessons learned in there, but it's all about just following the path of the current. And I say that it's easy as just doing that, but even I would have trouble with that. So I understand where you're coming from there. It's non-trivial to try and track how the electricity flows from one thing to another.
And that's why I figured, in my mind, it makes more sense to start with the power module ward and make sure that it's kicking out the power that it's supposed to, and then working your way up to the boards in the back box. But yeah, what do I know?
That does make sense.
Nothing.
The power module board is pretty critical because everything happens on there. Like there's ceramic, those big rectangular things on the board, big ceramic resistance. Like that's where most of the power is getting through. You'll find there's a fair bit of heat transfer underneath those, so the board will be a little bit sort of discolored. But what a lot of people do now with those diodes is they actually mount them up higher off the board so that they don't actually transfer so much heat. The danger with that though is because of the vibration in a pinball machine. You'll often find that when you mount them off the board, there's more vibration, so they can snap easier just with the vibration and the action from the vibration. Yeah. So it's so you can't really win with them. They either snap or they burn the board. So what are you going to do?
Right. What are you going to do? So anyway, that's this week's adventure in Chris's 8-ball deluxe that he has no clue how to fix.
I'd love to be up there with you. I would love to just go through it and just.
Wife is constantly mocking him for breaking yet another pinball machine. I'm like, I didn't do anything. She's like, you looked at it.
Yeah, you looked at it, Chris. It's all your fault. That's all right. You're going to learn a lot from this machine. But if you haven't already, get some perf board, get some old shitty components that you don't
when
care
I get time for me to practice, I'm definitely going to.
Got to do it, man, because you can fix that board, or at least get to the point where you're reflowing solder on all the connectors, because you might find it's a dry joint. I mean, if there's no power getting to it, it's probably a dry joint, or like a component failure. But if it's just not getting power at all, it's probably just a dry joint. And if you know how to do that, you can fix it pretty easy.
Yeah, a buddy of mine who some people know him as Tank Man because of his brilliance at World of Tanks. The people that I talk to, let's put it this way, and messaged with before. But anyway, he's a good friend of mine. He's been soldering on computer boards since he was a teen. So
he'd be a good person to get in.
I told him he's got to come give me some good lessons, and of course his first thing is, well, you got to make sure you get a good soldering iron. I'm like, no, I know. Yeah, we're talking about immediately he's rattling off these $80 soldering irons. I'm like, dude, I'll just borrow yours if that's where you're gonna send me.
No, you don't need something like that. I got one from, there's this local place in Australia that's pretty well known called J-Car, and they're like I don't know what probably used to be the Dick Smith is another Australian company, but like the Tandy or the Radio Shack sort of level. But they also sell things like kits and stuff like that. They're really like a component shop. They're a cool place. I could spend a lot of money there, basically. That's why I never go there. But they have this Japanese-made iron, soldering iron, that is pretty good. I've used it a couple of times just to fix things around the house, and it heats up quick, and it just does things really nicely. So you don't really want to buy like a soldering station when you're doing pinball repair, but you want to buy something that's of decent enough quality. Like mid-range is all you really need. I don't buy like a $20 one. Buy maybe a $30 or $40 one, and you'll be fine.
Well, that's the one that was gifted to me. Was a $20 one.
It'll probably do the job for doing things like resoldering wires onto playfield components. Like,
well, as Tankman pointed out, he goes, you know what's really important? He goes, making sure you have something that holds the board in place and doesn't move. And I went, oh yeah, you got a good point there. So apparently he's also made something of that nature for himself. That
a little jig, yeah,
a little jig. Here's how crazy my buddy is. He is really into tabletop gaming, and so he is doing his own molds for all the various tanks and stuff for these war games, and he's also creating his own terrain that he's planning on selling. He's basically starting his own business. So in his house, he's got a laser CNC machine and his various presses, and he just bought a larger CNC machine that can now cut through big pieces of wood. And I was like, hey, you can CNC a playfield for me. And he's now getting ready to buy a 3D printer. So yeah, he's
I'm surprised that that's the last thing he's actually buying, being doing the sort of things he's doing. Like a 3D printer would kind of be the first thing I'd get when I'm trying to reproduce things like that.
Right. Well, he knows how to take various parts, make negative molds, and then redo new molds, and then create his own out of it. He's been modeling for years and years and years and years and years. So anyway,
that's pretty cool.
He's going to give me some education too. So, but the offer still stands because I need people to personally come and look at this thing. If you find yourself in the Southern California area and you want to help, please give me a buzz. Come on down. Yeah. hit me up on Twitter at Shut Your Traps. Hit the podcast up with an email, BlahCade at gmail.com.
Yeah, that's it. That
is it. Hey, why don't we move on to digital pinball?
Digital pinball, yeah, because there's been some stuff happening.
Yeah, Swords of Fury has officially been released.
Yeah.
And I did give it another run, and hooray, the little mini playfield now works like a charm.
Yeah, it does. It's
like
so much better.
Catch a ball on the flipper up there and aim, which seems to be kind of important.
It does when you're trying to get the goblins and such up there. It's working real nice now. And I noticed that just before they released on Android, they did a textures and what do you call it? Not objects, but polys update on it as well to make everything super sharp. So it's looking really good now. It's even better than it did before when beta, which was actually arguably pretty good then. But yeah, it's pretty slick. It's a good way to end the season, I guess.
Yeah. As such, they released a newsletter, and if you would like to vote on which table starts the next season, season 7, you can do that. I'm not sure quite when the voting ends.
Yeah, I think they were running for a couple of weeks.
It's on Facebook, I believe, is where they're doing out the Farsight's Facebook account. The two choices are picking between Paragon, which our friend Heretic would tell you it is your godly duty to vote for that, or Embryon, which I've played both. I've played Embryon more than I've played Paragon. The issue I have with Paragon is it has the dreaded double flipper. I hate double flippers.
Oh, the nested flippers, yeah, because it's a wide body. These are both super wides, aren't they?
Yes, they're both super wides. So that's my
wide.
Yeah, that's my issue with Paragon. That being said, Paragon has a pretty wackadoodle layout. So that would be fun to mess around with. Embryon, I've played with a few times, but I kind of am not enamored with it. It's a beautiful looking table. I've seen it completely LED'd out, and it was phenomenal looking with those blues
popping out.
Yeah, just bursting. But it doesn't really have much going on for me that interested me. So I wound up voting for Paragon.
Yeah, me too. I went for Paragon. I haven't played either of them, but I know what it works well with those super wides. I mean, I played Space Invaders just recently at Netherworld,
Yeah.
and I just remember just how much fun those super wides are to play.
What I
And yeah,
hope is that Farsight is able to translate, and we always say this, but on these wide bodies is especially true, the speed of the ball, because
yeah,
it's
because it floaty as hell. Yeah, it's so floaty.
yeah.
It's
They
like
they had their chance with Genie. They have managed to slow it down a little bit, but Genie's still way
still
too
rockets.
fast. These tables, they're not fast tables at all.
No, they need to like have that pitch so flat almost that
Yeah.
the thing just like it's like in slow motion going down between the flippers, and that's the attraction of these tables. Like they flip slow, and it's an actual effort to get the ball all the way up the top of the table.
Yeah, you see when you see people playing these, they throw a lot of body language into their flipping.
Yeah, they do.
as if they're helping.
Pelvic thrusting.
Yeah, because the simple making contact with the flipper button, and that's doing all the work for you, but you wouldn't know it by these. You'd think it was an actual mechanical effect of how hard you push that button in is how hard the ball's going to fly.
There is because of the way the mechanics of the flipper work on these old machines, and the fact that the voltage is driven directly through the cabinet switches to the machine, the way you flip can sometimes have an effect on the flippers depending on how they're maintained. So if you do a quick flip on some of these, you'll find that just through the way the machine actually works, you might find it delivers slightly more power through the flippers. Whereas a solid state machine, it's basically just a 5-volt contact that you're interacting with, and it doesn't transfer any power. But sometimes, rather than holding the flipper button in, if you just pulse the flipper button, sometimes you will get a little bit of extra power out of it. So it sometimes works. And this only really works for those machines that aren't super well maintained. But if you've got good contact throughout both the cabinet switches and the end of stroke switches in one of these areas of machine, you won't have that problem. But if they've got a bit of pitting on the contacts or anything else that means that the power isn't transferred well, you can sort of adjust your technique on the buttons, and sometimes you can get a little bit of extra power out of them. But yeah, but thrusting doesn't help you.
Yeah.
It makes you feel better about it, but it doesn't generally help the flipper work any better.
Now the other
awesome.
the other piece of info that came with the newsletter is that there will not be a table released next month.
No.
So Farsight is taking a month off, you might say, from releasing a table on TPA, but the employees themselves are hardly going to be taking a month off, as they are basically going to be
burn down.
Bug hunt mode. Yeah,
bug burn down. And this is what everyone has been asking them to do for years, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is like, take a month off. We'll even pay you to take a month off, people have been saying, which is up for debate as far as I'm concerned. But they're at the point now where they have the resources and have the ability to take a gap month and focus on the fixes.
Well, I think this speaks for how the sales of TPA are, in that they're still getting a lot of new users buying seasons.
Yes.
And when you have 6 seasons to purchase from, that goes a long ways. Yeah, that goes a long way to paying the bills, you might say. You're not having to constantly catch up. You're at that tipping point where now month to month are just gravy. They're not the core income that's driving on. So that's good. If they're able to do this more often, I'm going to be very curious to see what comes of this. There's been some speculation on the forum as to, are they trying to implement the new physics that they've been talking about for Stern Pinball Arcade? Are they going to do just nothing bug hunting?
1 or 2 cleanup? Are they going to do a season 1 or 2 cleanup?
That would be, God, that'd be wonderful. But there's no way. I don't think they could do that in a month.
Not in a month. They might be able to do some basic.
It'd be fantastic if we saw, say, them take 6 tables from the first 2 seasons and just gussy up the graphics on those 6 tables.
Just do them
that would,
incrementally. Like even if they did 6 tables every year or every season,
yeah,
they would
yeah.
soon get through the backlog
Yep.
pretty quick.
There's been talk about, oh, maybe they're going to finally do Black Knight and get the emulation on that running.
That would be that would make a lot of people go, "What do I complain about now?" Because that's been like the biggest bugbear for a lot of long-term Pinball Arcade fans.
Oh yeah,
out there, like just not having this thing emulated with all the scripting bugs in it, and
well, I won't even play it. That's
for that very reason.
I literally will not play it because not only do I feel like it's just got scripting errors or problems going on, I think it looks ugly as hell, and it doesn't play right to me at all.
It's the whole playfield is muddy, and it was done at the time when they really didn't have good 3D scanners and stuff, so everything doesn't look photorealistic. Imagine if they actually just took that table and stripped it apart and did a full 3D remodel on it using the 3D scanner that they have now. Amazing. It would look so good.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's anybody's guess as to what they're going to be hammering out up there during that month. But it's good that they finally are able to do that. I hope the community appreciates it and doesn't pull one of these, after the month is over and these things get implemented. They go, really? That's all that you guys did? Oh,
Oh, there's going to be people that do that because there's
there's already people that are doing it going, I think they should take 2 months off. It's like, oh my God. I read one that was all, I would take a third less tables just if those tables were, better and had better physics. It's like,
you don't understand.
I love retconning, something that's already been released.
Yeah, but we've discussed this before. People, often people that haven't been with the platform for a long time or haven't got a games or business management background, don't understand that that's not something that can actually happen. This alone.
And, it's just,
go on.
It's the same thing that I said with regards to Stern Pinball Arcade. And as much as it may suck that they cut back on the devices that it's going to work on, it's actually positive because that means they're going to be able to make the devices that it does work on work top notch. Once those are working, well, now you can add a few more devices to your plate. You've already got a working system going now, and you probably figured out a lot of things in the process, and now you can do it to some other things. It's much easier to tackle one system alone than 8 at the same time. I mean, that's got to make your head spin.
Yeah. There's so many different variants, particularly in Android, there's so many different variances between devices, so many different chipsets, graphic chipsets.
Yeah.
That getting things to work even on the same ecosystem is very difficult.
It's you wouldn't think that going from DX9 to DX11 on the PC, that there'd be really any issues with the game. And yet some of the stupidest bugs popped up because of that very thing. So, again, that's why it's great. Hey, Stern Pinball RF, there is no DX9 version. It's DX11 only. It's just one less thing to try and make sure that it works as, good on this too.
So I've got something to mention about that. I actually got, when I think somebody contacted me directly on Twitter and asked, is there a way to scale back graphics on Stern Pinball Arcade on Android because I'm getting performance issues? And they said, okay. I didn't notice that they actually put the device in there, and so I started to respond, what hardware are you using? And then I saw S4 in the tweet. I went, so hang on, you're using a Samsung Galaxy S4 to play Stern Pinball Arcade? So point one, I'm surprised that that's even whitelisted. Point two, you got no hope of running that game on that hardware. Like in the beta, Pinwiz is a beta tester for Android, and he was reporting at one point some performance issues on the S7, which is the latest release at the moment. So if there were some reported issues with S7, which incidentally have now been resolved. But yeah, if he was seeing performance issues on S7, then there's no chance in heck that the S4 is going to be able to like stand up to the emulation demands.
Yeah.
That certain people are like, hey, like, no way. So this is what I was talking about in the past, where whitelisting stuff and blacklisting devices needs to sort of happen, like you say, in a very, very controlled fashion. Like, you should only be releasing the product for the actual bare metal hardware that you have in the studio.
Yeah.
So if you, for example, there was a point there where they had to blacklist the Shield tablet during beta because they found an issue that was preventing it from actually running properly at all. So for a lot of the beta in the last month, I was playing on my Pixel XL because the Shield tablet was completely blacklisted and wasn't receiving updates. But then they resolved it, and it's back on the table again, and it's working really, really well. So that's the right way of doing it.
Yeah.
Now, I think unless they've got an S4 in the building, which they probably would, I would be going, yeah, pretty much any device from the last year, I'd be whitelisting. I'd be going through, all the Android device listing, going, yeah, anything with these specs should be able to run this platform, and only giving those a whitelist. And I'm pretty sure that the S4 would not be one of those devices. But this is a problem, right? As a consumer, the thing is, they might have actually had that the S4 whitelisted when they originally released the product back last year, and it just hasn't, like, the people that already have it installed on that device may have access to it still. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens when it's I think it is actually out properly now on Google Play again. But yeah, as time goes on, it's going to be interesting to see what devices actually do get whitelisted on it.
Yeah. Well, we shall see indeed.
We will. But yeah, the month off is going to be interesting. I think it's fair to say that if you want to help with this over the month, you should definitely join up for the beta on Steam. And all those people that are on the Android beta should also be as active as possible during the month, because I reckon there's going to be a pile of beta releases in this month that we're going to have to get in and sort of have a look at.
Hopefully we'll get a log file too, so we don't have to look at.
Yeah, it would be helpful to actually get a known issues and a resolved issues. I know in beta, Pinwiz is just basically pasting a list showing what things have been fixed and what things aren't. But I think it almost might be better that, we might do a more formalized version of that and really make it easy, because it's going to be a churn fest this month as far as beta testing goes.
Well, all right. I think that's our issues with pinball this week.
Yeah.
What else we got on the plate?
Well, the only other thing is that it was tournament at Netherworld for me since we last spoke. And I didn't do as well as I did the first time around, but I still got top 10 out of 50. So that was pretty good, I thought. The tables they had, we have a Aerosmith on the floor now. So that's very interesting. The trick pony, it's a bit of an interesting mechanism that they use to shoot the ball from a saucer into the toy box. Okay. If you think about Aerosmith and Batman 66, I'd like to say that the layout is kind of the same. So there's a big toy feature thing in the top right of the playfield, and then there's ramps that sort of snake around it, very much like Batman 66, except without the crane, of course. But yeah, the layout looks remarkably the same in a lot of respects, just from the positioning of the toys. I will say this, that the Aerosmith code is far more complete than the Batman 66 code when it was on the floor. But the Batman 66 code has just received a colossal update with art assets and rules. They've actually got a wizard mode in it now that they've put in, the new code. So that's pretty cool. And we're getting to experience these things live, of course, at Netherworld, because they've got both tables and they're very meticulous about updating the ROM code on it. So, yeah, it's fun. They're both. I think Aerosmith is quite fun, but they didn't really have the music up very loud, so you couldn't really hear it super well. Which for some people will be a benefit because they hate Aerosmith as a band.
Still, whenever you're playing a music table, that's such a key component.
You got to have it cranking, right?
You do. You
really do. And the speaker system in the new Stern, like that era of table, is really quite good. Like the default speakers, they're pretty punchy. So yeah, it's quite fun. But yeah, the key feature of that thing is where the saucer has two solenoids in it, one for just a soft kick out and one for the big cross table kick. The thing goes from like the right hand side of the playfield to the left hand side of the playfield in the air into the bloody box. It's pretty cool to see. I tried to capture it on video, but it just wasn't quite clear enough. But it's very impressive when you see it in real life. So if you have one near you, go and check it out.
I like it.
Yeah,
not that I've seen it, but I like the sound of it.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
I have to see it for myself. Alrighty, well, gang, we're gonna wrap things up then here this week. Thank you all for listening. Make sure you tune in next week. I will try and update you on. Hopefully, I'll have some more news and not just me staring blankly at A-Ball Deluxe. And maybe we'll get a better clue as to what they are going to be doing in the beta, or not the beta, in the this month off. Bug stuff like that. So, for Jared, for myself, thank you again. We will talk to you again next week on the BlahCade podcast.
See you later.